Portland's rain doesn't just fall. It claws, each drop a cold, deliberate strike against the skin, as if the city weeps for secrets buried in its bones. At 11:30 p.m., the precinct is a crypt of flickering fluorescence and the bitter dregs of coffee left too long on the burner. A silence so thick it amplifies every creak, every whisper of dread. I'm Detective Michael Harris, 15 years on the force. My desk a battlefield of case files and regrets, each one a scar from chasing truths that slip through the cracks of reason. For a decade, one case has been my shadow, Emily Wilson, a 10-year-old girl who vanished from a locked bedroom at 1478 Oakwood Drive, leaving no trace but a void in my soul. Her school photo, pinned to my bulletin board, stares at me with serious eyes, a silent accusation of my failure. Tonight, a call from Providence Medical Center tears open that wound, dragging me into a darkness where the line between human and horror blurs, where a child's gaze holds the weight of an ancient, patient evil. This is not just a case. It's a descent into Portland's unseen terrors, a vigil against a force that defies time, space, and sanity. The dispatcher's voice slices through the precinct's hum like a scalpel, sharp and urgent, cutting through the monotony of paperwork. Detective Harris, something unusual at Providence Medical Center. Dr. Bernard asked for you specifically. I pause, pen frozen over a half-finished report, the words blurring as my pulse quickens, a familiar tightening in my chest. Did they say why? I ask, already reaching for my leather jacket. It seems worn from years of late-night calls, its weight a reminder of the burdens I carry. Just said it's regarding a child who walked in alone. Dr. Bernard wants to speak with you personally. A child. Alone. The words coil in my gut like a snake, stirring memories of Emily Wilson. Her straight blonde hair, her solemn eyes, the locked door that mocked every law of physics. I shove the thought aside, grab my keys and step into the night. Portland streets are a watercolor of rain and neon, streetlights bleeding into puddles that ripple under a relentless downpour. My wipers battle the deluge, their rhythmic scrape a counterpoint to the radio's oppressive silence, a void that amplifies my unease. The city feels alive tonight, its pulse hidden beneath the surface, as if the rain carries whispers of secrets older than the concrete. Why me? Why by name? Most nights, I crave the quiet, the space to think. But tonight it's a canvas for questions I can't answer, each one a needle in my mind. Providence Medical Center looms ahead, its fluorescent windows cutting through the dark like a beacon or a warning. I park in the emergency zone, the rain soaking through my jacket in seconds, cold and unyielding, as if urging me to turn back, to leave the unknown buried. The automatic doors hiss open, exhaling a sterile breath of antiseptic and the faint, acrid tang of coffee left to burn. The lobby is a study in contrasts, harsh light against the night's gloom, the soft murmur of a television against the rain's drumbeat outside. Dr. Thomas Bernard waits near the reception desk, his blue scrubs crisp, his white coat pristine despite the late hour, a man who carries authority with quiet precision. He checks his watch, a nervous tick that betrays the calm of his posture, and steps forward, extending a hand. Detective Harris? His handshake is firm, but his eyes dart to the reception staff, wary, as if guarding a secret too heavy for casual ears. Thanks for coming so quickly. I nod, water dripping from my jacket onto the polished floor, leaving dark, fleeting stains. What's going on, doctor? He glances around, voice dropping to a near whisper. Let's talk on the way up. We move to the elevator, our shoes squeaking against the linoleum, the sound unnervingly loud in the hospital's sterile hush. The doors close with a soft thud, and he presses the button for the third floor. The elevators hum a mechanical pulse that mirrors my own. A young girl walked into the ER alone around 8:30 tonight. Thomas begins, his tone clinical but strained, each word chosen with care. No ID, no guardian, completely dry despite the rain. She hasn't said much, but what she has said is concerning. The word hangs between us, heavy with implications, and I feel the air grow denser, as if the elevator itself is complicit in what awaits. How old? I ask, my voice steady despite the tightening in my chest. A reflex honed from years of facing the unthinkable. About 10, he replies, pausing as the elevator jolts slightly. A mechanical hiccup that feels portentous. And that's part of what's strange. She refuses to look away from the pharmacy sign across the street. Says everyone will die if she does. The words land like a physical blow, irrational yet weighted with a child's unyielding conviction. A warning that resonates in the marrow. The doors slide open, revealing a hallway lined with examination rooms, most dark at this hour. Their emptiness a silent chorus to the hospital's subdued pulse. Fluorescent lights flicker faintly, casting long, wavering shadows that seem to shift just beyond my vision, as if the building itself is watching. Thomas leads me to room 312, stopping outside a door with a small, reinforced window. We've run basic tests, he continues, his voice low, as if afraid to disturb the girl within. She's physically healthy, no signs of abuse, malnutrition, or exposure, but she won't cooperate with a full exam because she won't turn away from the window. No one's reported a missing child matching her description. I peer through the glass, my breath catching. A small blonde girl sits cross-legged on the examination bed, her pale green hospital gown too large, swallowing her thin frame like a shroud. She faces the window, back rigid, hands resting on her knees, motionless except for the faint rise and fall of her chest. Across the street, a red cross glows on the pharmacy building, its neon light casting a crimson tint on her face, her unblinking eyes fixed on its center, as if bound by an invisible chain. The red cross pulses faintly, its glow uneven, as if struggling against the rain's assault. The pharmacy building, squat and weathered, stands in stark contrast to the hospital's sterile modernity. Its brick facade pitted with age, its windows dark save for that single, blazing symbol. I feel a chill, not from the rain-soaked jacket clinging to my shoulders, but from the weight of her gaze, the unnatural stillness of her posture. It's not just a child staring out a window. It's a vigil, a ritual, a defiance of something I can't yet name. I called you because you need to see this for yourself, Thomas says, his voice barely above a whisper, his eyes searching mine for a reaction I'm not ready to give. I step closer, careful to stay in her peripheral vision, my flashlight tucked in my pocket, unnecessary in the room's dim glow. The overhead lights are lowered, casting soft, uneven shadows that pool in the corners, as if reluctant to touch her. Hey there, I say, my voice soft, a tone honed from years of coaxing answers from frightened witnesses, from children lost in the chaos of crime scenes. My name's Michael. I'm a police officer. Can you tell me your name? Silence stretches, heavy and deliberate, as if the room itself holds its breath. The only sound the faint drip of a faucet in the corner, each drop a metronome to her stillness. Then, without shifting her gaze, she whispers, Emily. The word is a blade, slicing through a decade of failure, her voice fragile yet piercing, a sound that shouldn't exist in the sterile, rain-soaked night. It's not just a name. It's a wound, a memory, a ghost given form. Emily, I repeat, struggling to keep my tone even, my hands clenching at my sides to steady the tremor threatening to betray me. Do you have a last name, Emily? She doesn't answer, her body statue still, her eyes locked on the red cross, its glow pulsing faintly, as if in rhythm with her breath, a silent conversation between child and symbol. I study her closely, the blonde hair falling past her shoulders, the small, straight nose, the set of her jaw. Every detail a perfect echo of the photos I've carried in my mind for 10 years, pinned to my desk, haunting my dreams. Emily Wilson vanished a decade ago, my first major case as a rookie officer, my first failure. She was 10 then, a bright, serious girl who disappeared from a locked bedroom, leaving no trace, no footprints, no witnesses, no breach in the security system. We searched for months, years, scouring Portland's streets, its woods, its underbelly, finding nothing but questions that gnawed at my sanity. This girl, impossibly, looks identical, her features unchanged, as if time forgot her, as if she stepped out of that 2013 school photo and into this hospital room. She hasn't aged a day, her skin smooth, her eyes clear, her presence a defiance of biology, of reason, of everything I've built my career to uphold. I step back, my mind reeling, memories flooding in. Emily's parents, David and Sarah Wilson, their faces etched with grief. The pristine bedroom that mocked my every theory. The case file that grew thicker with dead ends until it was sealed, cold, a tomb for my failure. Thomas touches my arm, his fingers light but grounding, nodding toward the doorway. I follow him into the hall, my legs moving on autopilot, my brain grappling with the impossible. The hallway is a tunnel of fluorescent light, the air heavy with the faint hum of machinery, the distant clatter of a nurse's cart. "You recognize her?" Thomas says, not a question, his voice low, his eyes searching mine with a mix of concern and curiosity. I swallow, my throat dry, the taste of coffee and rain lingering. She looks identical to a missing child from a case I worked 10 years ago. Emily Wilson. But that's impossible. She'd be 20 by now. The words feel inadequate, a feeble attempt to tether the surreal to the rational. Through the small window in the door, Emily sits motionless, her gaze unwavering, the Red Cross's light painting her face in shades of blood and shadow, her stillness a silent scream against the natural order. My knees weaken, and I sink into a chair, the plastic creaking under my weight. The hallways hum a distant drone that fails to drown out the pounding in my chest. "You said this was a case from 10 years ago?" Thomas asks, his voice pulling me back from the edge, his hands clasped tightly, as if to anchor himself. "Yeah." I say, the word heavy, weighted with a decade of guilt. 10 years exactly. I close my eyes, the memory of that first call vivid, crackling through the radio as I finished an overnight shift. Possible missing child at 1478 Oakwood Drive. The words were routine then, just another call, but they became the axis of my obsession. The moment my career, my life, shifted into something I could never fully escape. The Wilson house at 1478 Oakwood Drive was a two-story colonial, its blue shutters framing windows that gleamed under a morning sun that felt too bright for tragedy, too ordinary for the impossible. The lawn was manicured, the mailbox upright, the kind of suburban perfection that hides its cracks until they split wide open. David Wilson met me at the door, his face tight, controlled, a man holding himself together by sheer will. His eyes red but dry, his hands trembling as he gestured me inside. "She's gone," he said, leading me upstairs, his voice steady but hollow, each word a stone dropped into a bottomless well. "We punished her last night." She was talking back, refusing homework. We sent her to her room and locked the door. It's standard procedure when she misbehaves. The lock startled me, unusual for a child's bedroom. A sliding bolt on the outside, simple but secure, the kind used to confine rather than protect. I noted it in my pad, my rookie zeal driving me to catalog every detail, to prove myself in a precinct that still saw me as untested. "This morning," David continued, climbing the stairs, his steps heavy, "I came to let her out for school and she was gone. The door was still locked from the outside. The windows have security bars. I don't understand how she got out." His voice remained steady, but a tremor in his hands betrayed him, a crack in his composure that widened with every word. Sarah Wilson sat on Emily's bed, clutching a stuffed rabbit to her chest, its fur worn from years of love, her body rocking slightly, her eyes red-rimmed and distant. The room was pristine, a child's sanctuary frozen in time. Books arranged by height on a bookshelf, their spines uncreased. A desk clear except for a completed homework sheet and a pencil aligned perfectly parallel to the edge. The bed made, its comforter smooth, no sign it had been slept in. A bulletin board held a spelling bee ribbon, a photo of Emily smiling at a picnic, and a small, unsettling drawing. A stick-figure child holding hands with a tall, thin figure colored black, its limbs unnaturally long, its presence a smudge of wrongness. I examined the windows first, their metal security bars bolted to the outside frame, the gaps no more than 4 inches, too narrow for even a small child to squeeze through. The bars were unmarred, the bolts tight, the glass intact. The door's sliding bolt showed no signs of tampering, its metal cold and unyielding. The hardwood floor was solid, no loose boards or hidden panels. The closet filled with neatly hung clothes and a single pair of sneakers. The heating vent was too small for a person to fit through, its screws rusted in place. I walked the room 3 times, measuring every inch, my tape measure snapping back with a metallic whine, my notebook filling with numbers that led nowhere. Does Emily have friends she might have contacted? Places she might go? I asked, already sensing this wasn't a runaway case. The room's perfection a silent rebuttal to every theory. David shook his head, his jaw tight. She doesn't have a phone. And even if she did, how would she have gotten out? His question echoed my own, a riddle that defied physics, logic, reason. More officers arrived, photographing the room, dusting for prints, interviewing the parents separately. I coordinated a search of the neighborhood, checking every house on the block while K-9 units scoured the woods behind the property, their barks fading into the distance. No one had seen anything unusual. No doors or windows showed signs of forced entry. The security system had been armed all night, registering no exits or entries. The neighbor's security camera, with a partial view of the Wilsons' front yard, showed nothing but shadows and the occasional flicker of a passing car. Emily Wilson had simply vanished, as if the house itself swallowed her whole, its walls complicit in her absence. By the end of that first day, we had a full missing persons investigation underway, the precinct buzzing with urgency, my rookie status forgotten in the face of the impossible. I stayed late, reviewing evidence, my eyes burning from the precinct's harsh lights. My sergeant noticed, his voice gruff but kind. "Harris, go home. Get some sleep. We'll pick this up tomorrow." But I couldn't let it go. Something about the absolute impossibility of it kept me awake. My apartment's silence filled with visions of that room, its locked door a taunt. I returned to the Wilson house the next day, and the day after, measuring vents, checking the attic, examining the roof for signs someone could have removed and replaced the ceiling. Nothing made sense. A week turned into a month, then 6, my visits a ritual of desperation. David grew impatient, his questions sharp. "Have you found anything new?" he'd ask, knowing the answer. Sarah went the opposite direction, sitting in Emily's room during my searches, watching me with desperate hope that faded with each fruitless visit. She'd share stories. Emily's spelling bee win in 3rd grade, her fear of thunderstorms, her love for sandwiches cut into triangles. Each anecdote a thread tying her to a daughter who was gone. 6 months later, Sarah broke, her grief erupting as I checked the floorboards for the 10th time. "You took her!" she screamed at David, her voice raw, her nails clawing at him, then herself, until paramedics sedated her, her wails echoing down the stairs. David called the next day, his voice hollow. "She's being committed for psychiatric evaluation." The stress was too much. My visits grew tense, David's patience thinning, the house emptier each time, its walls seeming to lean inward, as if guarding their secret. A year after Emily vanished, David sold the house, moving to Chicago. "There's nothing left for me here," he said, standing in the empty bedroom I'd examined dozens of times. "The divorce will be final next month. Sarah's still institutionalized." The case went cold after 3 years, my sergeant reassigning me with pity in his eyes. "This case is destroying you, Michael," he said, noting my dark circles, my weight loss. I kept Emily's photo on my desk, a reminder of my failure, her eyes a silent accusation I carried into every case that followed. Now, in room 312, that same face stares at the Red Cross, unchanged, a ghost made flesh, her presence a violation of time itself. The room is cold, not from the hospital's air conditioning, but from something deeper, as if the air itself recoils from her vigil. "Are you okay?" Thomas asks, his voice grounding me, his hand hovering near my shoulder, hesitant to touch. "No," I admit, standing, my legs steadier than I expect, driven by a need to act, to understand. "I'm not okay at all." Thomas opens the door, pausing to ensure Emily's view of the Red Cross remains clear. The symbols glow a lifeline or a chain. I can't tell which. What tests have you run? I ask, keeping my voice low, my eyes on Emily's rigid form, her hospital gown pooling around her like a shroud. Thomas leans against the wall, his fatigue evident in the slump of his shoulders. Standard blood work, vitals, preliminary neurological screening. Physically, she's healthy, no signs of malnutrition, dehydration, or exposure. Her temperature's normal, heart rate steady, but her brain activity. He shakes his head, his voice trailing off, as if words fail to capture the anomaly. Her EEG shows patterns like someone in deep meditation or a coma, but with unusual spikes in areas typically dormant during conscious activity. I've never seen readings like this, not in any textbook, not in 5 years here. Any ID? Personal effects when she came in. I press, grasping for something tangible, something to anchor this impossibility to reality. Nothing, Thomas replies, his hands slipping into his coat pockets, a nervous habit. Just the clothes on her back, jeans, white t-shirt, sneakers, all brand new, tags still attached, no labels I recognize. We've checked every database, no matching fingerprints, no dental records, no missing persons reports that fit. I frown, the Wilson case is high profile, ensuring Emily's prints were in the system, her dental x-rays cataloged, her disappearance a headline for months. Have you had other strange cases here? I ask, the question impulsive, born of a nagging sense that Emily's presence is part of something larger. Thomas looks at me sharply, hesitating, then glances down the hallway, checking for eavesdroppers. I've worked here 5 years. Most cases make sense, even the unusual ones have medical explanations. But, yes, there have been exceptions. His voice drops, confessional, as if admitting a sin. Last year, a terminal cancer patient, Marcus, stage 4 pancreatic, no chance of survival. He shared a room with an elderly man with heart failure. One night, the older man coded and died. The next morning, Marcus's scans were clean, no cancer, no trace. We ran the tests 3 times, checked for misdiagnosis. The cancer was there, then it wasn't. He continues, each case a thread in a tapestry of the inexplicable. 2 months ago, identical twin sisters came in after a car accident. One with fractures and internal bleeding, the other with minor cuts. During surgery, the injured sister's wounds started healing, while her sister in the waiting room screamed, developing identical fractures with no trauma. Last summer, a 6-year-old boy predicted code blues minutes before they happened, claiming he saw darkness coming for patients. Thomas looks through the window at Emily, his expression haunted. Nothing like this, though. Nothing that defies physical reality the way she does. I share Emily's disappearance, laying out the facts as clinically as I can. The locked bedroom, the security bars, the impossible escape, the years of investigation that yielded nothing but my own unraveling. There was simply no way out of that room. I finish, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. I measured everything myself multiple times, vents, windows, attic access. Nothing was disturbed, nothing large enough for a child to pass through. Thomas's conviction falters. People don't just vanish, he says, but his tone lacks certainty. No, they don't, I counter, checking my watch, nearly 1 a.m., and they don't stay 10 years old for a decade either. I need to pull the case files, all of them. I say, standing, the chair creaking as I rise. Let's meet tomorrow, 8 o'clock, cafeteria. Thomas nods, arranging to monitor Emily overnight and keep her details quiet, alerting only the ER staff and night nurse. Don't move her yet, I add, intuition prickling. A cop's gut honed by years of chasing shadows. She's fixated on that sign, said everyone dies if she looks away. Let's not test that until we know more. He agrees, his eyes lingering on Emily's silhouette. The red crosses glow, a silent partner in her vigil. As I head to the elevator, the hallway feels too long, its fluorescent lights flickering faintly, casting shadows that seem to writhe in my peripheral vision. I notice patients in open rooms, a middle-aged woman sitting up, an elderly man in a wheelchair, a young man standing at his door, all facing room 312, their stillness mirroring Emily's, their gazes heavy, unnatural, as if drawn by an unseen force. At the nurse's station, I pause, addressing the nurse, her name tag reading Margaret. "I'm Detective Harris, visiting the girl in 312. Have you noticed anything unusual about the other patients tonight?" Margaret sets down her pen, her eyes tired but sharp. "Now that you mention it, we've had 6 patient requests to transfer to this floor since yesterday, all from different departments. Unusual, this floor's not exactly the luxury suite." She shrugs, but her unease is palpable. One said the light was better, another claimed his second-floor room was too noisy, though it's our quietest wing. A woman insisted she'd sleep better here. I press further. "Has the floor been quieter or noisier than usual?" She glances down the hall, toward Emily's room. "Quieter. Almost too quiet. Normally, call buttons go off every 15 minutes. Tonight, nothing." The elevator doors open, and I step inside, pressing the lobby button. As they close, I catch one last glimpse of the hallway. 3 more patients now stand in their doorways, all facing room 312, their eyes unblinking, their silence a chorus of dread that follows me into the dark. At 7:55 a.m., I return to Providence Medical Center, a cardboard box of case files tucked under my arm, the weight of 10 years' obsession pressing against my chest. The hospital buzzes with morning shift changes, nurses and doctors exchanging hushed updates, their voices a low hum against the clatter of breakfast trays. Daylight streams through the lobby's windows, painting the linoleum in soft golds, but it fails to erase the memory of last night's stillness. The patient's gaze is fixed on Emily's room like moths to a flame. The air smells of fresh coffee and disinfectant, a clinical facade that can't mask the undercurrent of unease lingering from the night. The cafeteria is half full, staff grabbing coffee before rounds, their conversations a blend of medical jargon and tired banter. Thomas sits at a corner table, dark circles under his eyes, his scrubs rumpled from a sleepless night, 2 large coffees steaming before him. He looks like a man who's seen something he can't unsee, his fingers drumming a restless rhythm on the table. "How is she?" I ask, setting down the box and taking the seat across from him, the chair's plastic cold against my back. "Unchanged," he says, pushing a coffee toward me, its heat a small comfort against the chill in my bones. Still staring at that cross. Hasn't moved, eaten, drunk, or used the bathroom. Hasn't even blinked more than necessary. It's not physically possible. I sip the coffee, its bitterness grounding me, a tether to the mundane in a world tilting toward the surreal. "That's not normal," I say, stating the obvious, my voice low to avoid drawing attention. "No, it's not," Thomas agrees, rubbing his eyes, his fatigue a mirror to my own. "I checked on her every hour. Same position, same fixed stare. The night nurse tried to get her to drink water around 4 a.m. She didn't even acknowledge her presence." He pauses, his gaze drifting to the box of files, a silent question in his eyes. I open the box, pulling out a manila folder labeled Wilson, Emily, Missing Persons 2013, its edges worn from years of handling, its contents a map of my failure. I spread the files across the table, original police reports, interview transcripts, crime scene photos, follow-up notes, a decade of dead ends laid bare. Thomas picks up Emily's school photo, her serious eyes staring back, the resemblance to the girl in room 312 undeniable, chilling. "It's her," he says quietly, his voice heavy with the weight of the impossible. "I don't understand how, but it's her." I nod, opening my laptop to show security footage from last night. The timestamp reading 11:59 p.m. The hospital lobby is empty except for a security guard at the desk, his attention on a magazine, oblivious to the rain hammering outside. At exactly midnight, the automatic doors slide open, and Emily walks in, her gait steady, purposeful, her clothes, jeans, white t-shirt, sneakers, pristine, tags dangling like evidence of her otherness. The guard looks up, startled, as she speaks briefly to the receptionist, who directs her to the ER. "She came in at exactly midnight," I say, zooming in on her face, her expression blank but resolute. Not 11:59, not 12:01. Midnight on the dot. Thomas frowns, leaning closer to the screen, the coffee forgotten. That's precise. Too precise. I click through external camera angles, each one blank. Here's the weird part. No external footage shows her approaching. She doesn't appear until she's inside the main doors, 30 feet from the nearest blind spot. It's like she materialized. Thomas takes a long drink, his hands unsteady. That's impossible, he says, but his voice lacks conviction, eroded by the night's revelations. He pulls out a tablet, opening a spreadsheet of hospital records. I've been thinking about your question. Other strange cases. I tracked unusual incidents over the past 5 years. Phenomena that defy medical explanation. There's more than I expected. He scrolls through the list, each entry a violation of reason. A hiker struck by lightning who predicted storms with pinpoint accuracy. A patient whose deformities spread to staff through touch, their spines curving, faces distorting temporarily. 23 cases in total, 17 in the last 2 years, a rising tide of the inexplicable. 3 years ago, a man claimed his deceased husband spoke to him, revealing hidden financial accounts, verified later. I add, flipping through my notebook. 2 years ago, a 9-year-old boy missing for 3 days said he was in the walls of his house, a space we searched and found empty. Our notes align, the incidents clustering within a 10-mile radius of downtown Portland, their frequency escalating since Emily's disappearance 11 years ago. Something's happening in this city, Thomas says, his voice low, his eyes scanning the cafeteria as if expecting the shadows to listen. Something that defies rational explanation. And it's getting worse, I add, pulling out my phone to call Officer Martinez, now a sergeant, who worked the Wilson case with me. His voice is warm but wary. Harris? Still obsessing over the Wilson girl? I ask about 1478 Oakwood Drive's history. Any whispers from before the Wilsons? He pauses, the silence heavy. There was something didn't make the report, neighborhood gossip. An elderly neighbor, Mrs. Kravitz, said the previous owners had a child go missing, about 15 years before the Wilsons. They moved out, claimed it was a job transfer, said all their kids were accounted for. No police report, no case file. I press, but he deflects, his tone defensive. We checked Harris. It was a dead end. We were grasping at straws. I thank him, hanging up, the pattern tightening. A house with a history of vanishings. A city pulsing with the unseen. Thomas shows me Emily's 3 a.m. brain scans, cross-sections glowing with impossible activity. Bright areas like a coma patient's, dark zones with no signal, as if parts of her brain are absent. She shouldn't be conscious, he says, pointing to the anomalies. These patterns suggest a vegetative state, yet she's sitting upright, focused. These dead zones, there's no baseline activity, even during sleep. A chilling thought forms, one I hesitate to voice. What if Emily isn't watching the cross? What if something's watching through her? Thomas doesn't laugh, doesn't dismiss it. His silence a testament to how far we've strayed from the rational. His eyes fixed on the scan, as if it holds the answer to a question he's afraid to ask. Thomas calls Dr. Eliza Chun, a neurologist at Oregon Health and Science University. Her expertise in rare conditions are next hope. Be careful what you say, I warn. The weight of Emily's condition demanding discretion. He nods, stepping away to make the call. I return to the case files, flipping through photos of Emily's bedroom, my eyes catching on the drawing pinned to her bulletin board. A stick-figure child holding hands with a tall, black figure, its limbs unnaturally long, its form a void of ink. The image unsettles me, a child's vision of something no adult could name, its simplicity masking a deeper truth. Dr. Chun arrives within the hour, a small woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, her clipboard a shield against the unknown. She studies Emily's scans, her expression tightening. Multiple consciousness states simultaneously, she says, her voice clipped, precise. Patterns for waking, dreaming, deep sleep, all at once, plus activity in regions dormant in conscious people. This defies everything we know about neurology. She takes tissue samples, promising results, her departure swift, as if eager to escape the room's oppressive air. I contact Professor James Murphy at Portland State, a folklore expert whose name surfaced in my research into Portland's unexplained phenomena. His secretary says he's lecturing, unavailable until 3 p.m., but I leave an urgent message, citing a police matter involving historical symbols and the Wilson case. He calls back at 2:45, his voice steady, academic. Detective Harris, your message mentioned symbols and folklore. What are we dealing with? I hesitate, knowing how it sounds. It's easier to show you. Can you meet me at Providence Medical Center? A pause, then, is this related to the Wilson case? A child vanishing from a locked room caught my attention. I confirm, and he agrees to arrive in 30 minutes. Murphy arrives precisely on time, mid-50s, with salt and pepper hair and wire-rimmed glasses, a worn leather messenger bag slung over his shoulder, his distracted air masking a mind honed by decades of study. We lead him to room 312, where Emily remains unchanged, her gaze fixed on the Red Cross, its glow dimming slightly as clouds thicken outside, the rain a relentless drumbeat against the windows. Murphy approaches her bed, moving deliberately to avoid her line of sight, his eyes scanning her face, then her arms and neck. He pauses, pulling a magnifying glass from his bag, leaning closer. Fascinating, he murmurs, his voice low, reverent. These marks, microscopic, etched at the cellular level. Do you recognize them? I ask, my pulse quickening. Some, he replies, tracing the air above a pattern on her forearm. This resembles Mesopotamian binding sigils, used in protective rituals. These, he points to her neck, are like medieval containment glyphs from European grimoires. In the hallway, his academic demeanor shifts to urgency. These markings are consistent with ancient rituals to contain supernatural entities. They're not random, they're deliberate, precise. I show him the drawing from Emily's room, the stick figure and the black, elongated figure. He studies it, his expression darkening. Children sense things adults filter out. They lack our rational barriers. This drawing, it's a warning. Murphy shares his theory. Entities exist alongside us, unseen by most, some using children as vessels, suspending their biological development. The Red Cross is an anchor, he says, adjusting his glasses, keeping the entity dormant. Its symbol predates Christianity, a protective sigil for millennia. Emily likely encountered this entity in a dimensional pocket within her house, a fold in reality where normal boundaries don't apply. He gestures to the pharmacy across the street, its weathered brick a relic of Portland's past. That building, decades old, anchors the entity. Emily was drawn here not by chance, but by design. A nurse interrupts, her face pale. Dr. Bernard, 6 patients on this floor have developed identical marks overnight. Same symbols as the girl. Murphy's expression hardens. It's transferring. Emily's been fighting it for 10 years, keeping it focused on the cross. But she's weakening. If she loses that fight, the entity breaks free, spreading to new hosts. I glance at my watch, 5 p.m. The lights flicker, a brief stutter, the pharmacy sign dimming momentarily. We need to evacuate this floor, maybe the hospital. I say, urgency rising. Thomas suggests a cover story, a neurological contagion causing skin markings, not far from the truth. He hurries to the administrator, leaving Murphy and me to strategize. How do we stop it? Ask. We need to know what it wants. Murphy replies, his voice grim. Freedom, energy, passage to another realm. If we understand its purpose, we can contain it or banish it. At 6:15 p.m., the lights flicker again. Longer, the pharmacy sign dimming, its red glow faltering. We need to move her now, I say, my hand on the door, but at 6:17, the power fails completely, plunging the hospital into darkness. No generators hum, no backups engage, the silence absolute, oppressive. My phone's flashlight cuts through the black, catching Murphy's concerned face, Thomas's silhouette in the hall. The Red Cross flickers erratically, then extinguishes, its absence a void that swallows hope. Emily, I shout, forcing the frozen electronic door open, my fingers straining against the metal, the mechanism groaning as it yields. Inside, Emily is no longer the still, vigilant child. Her body twists unnaturally, limbs bending at impossible angles, back arched so only her head and heels touch the mattress, a contortion that defies human anatomy. Thomas, already in the room, struggles to restrain her, his voice hoarse. "Harris, help!" Before I reach them, Emily goes rigid, an invisible force hurling Thomas against the wall, where he crumples, motionless, blood trickling from his forehead. Her jaw dislocates, mouth gaping wider than humanly possible, a cave of darkness, her eyes rolling back to show only whites, gleaming in my flashlight's beam. I draw my service weapon, the cold metal useless against this, my training irrelevant in the face of the incomprehensible. Emily's body slackens, her head snapping toward me with mechanical precision, her voice a chorus of 1,000 tones, overlapping, echoing, as if the room itself speaks through her. 10 years I watched the cross. 10 years I kept it contained. It wanted freedom, promised things, showed me things. But I knew what would happen if I looked away. The temperature plummets, my breath clouding, frost spreading across the windows and patterns mirroring the symbols on her skin. Intricate, alive, as if the entity writes its name in ice. It found me in my room. The voices continue, a cacophony of despair and defiance. Showed me a door where there was no door. Children are malleable, easier to use. But I fought. I found the cross. I bound it with my will. Emily's body lifts from the bed, hovering a foot above the mattress. Limbs limp like a puppet on unseen strings. Her hospital gown fluttering in an unfelt breeze. Dark liquid pours from her eyes, nose, mouth. Not blood, but black, viscous, moving with purpose, pooling on the floor, rising into a skeletal figure, 8 feet tall, its limbs impossibly thin, its head a smooth oval splitting to reveal rows of needle-like teeth. Emily collapses, her small form crumpling to the bed, fragile, human again. The creature turns, eyeless but focused, its presence a predator's weight, the air thick with ozone and rot, like lightning striking a swamp. I fire, bullets passing through, punching holes in the wall, useless. It lunges, pinning me, its cold burning through my jacket, my skin flash freezing, my lungs searing with each breath. Its face splits, teeth gleaming, inches from my own. I headbutt it, my forehead passing through icy gelatin, loosening its grip. I grab an oxygen tank, swinging it through its form, scattering black particles that rush back together, reforming, stronger. Thomas, conscious, tosses a syringe of epinephrine, his voice strained. "Harris!" I catch it, stabbing it into the creature's head, driving the needle deep, pushing the plunger. The entity screams, 1,000 voices in agony, its form destabilizing, parts melting, others hardening. Thomas slides a defibrillator across the floor. I flip the switch, watching the charge climb, the creature lunging again, its mouth gaping. I press the paddles to its chest as it solidifies, the jolt crackling, the entity arching backward, a high-pitched whine building until it implodes with a thunderous crack, knocking me against the wall. A black puddle hisses, evaporating, leaving no trace. Emily lies crumpled by the window, not breathing, lips blue, her skin ice cold. I drop to my knees, starting CPR, my hands on her small chest, counting compressions, my voice a desperate mantra. "Come on, Emily, you fought for 10 years. Don't give up now." Thomas grabs an ambu bag, forcing air into her lungs, shouting, "Code Blue, room 312. The medical team arrives, shocking her heart, injecting drugs, their efficiency a lifeline. A nurse announces, "I've got a rhythm." The monitor beeping, Emily's heartbeat slow but steady. They move her to the ICU, inducing a coma to heal her brain, her small form swallowed by machines. Thomas and I, battered, my jacket torn, his forehead bleeding, agree on a cover story. A gas leak causing toxic fumes, hallucinations, and equipment malfunctions, explaining the evacuation, our injuries, and Emily's condition. 3 days later, I sit by her ICU bed, the ventilator removed, her face peaceful, the tension of her vigil gone. DNA confirms she's Emily Wilson, biologically 10, unchanged by a decade, her bone density, organs, cells those of a healthy child. David Wilson arrives from Chicago, stunned, hopeful, while Sarah remains institutionalized, unprepared for the news. Professor Murphy, bruised but alive, emerges from a closet where he was trapped during the chaos, his research ongoing. He warns that entities persist, though this one seems banished, its connection to the pharmacy's Red Cross severed, the symbol replaced by a digital sign, the building closed for renovations. The hospital administration accepts the gas leak story, eager to avoid scrutiny, the truth known only to us four. Thomas, Murphy, Emily, and me. What would you do? If you faced a child whose gaze held an ancient entity, would you dare meet her eyes, knowing what might look back? Could you carry the weight of a truth that shatters reality? Or would you turn away, leaving Portland's unseen terrors to lurk in the shadows?